Nat here from the Parentmedic movement, and today I want to share some information to you how to recognise if your baby's not breathing. Obviously, one of the biggest fears of all parents across the world, and we believe every single parent should understand what to do if they do find their child is not breathing. CPR is really easy, and we really believe that any effort is better than no effort at all. So if you can't make it to a baby and child first aid session, our aim today is to provide you with an understanding of what to do. The first thing to understand is what to look out for with your baby's breathing. How can you recognise if they're breathing properly, and what would be happening if they're not breathing at all? When I ask parents, what do you think you would see if your baby wasn't breathing? Everyone answers to me, my baby would be turning blue. But the thing is, turning blue is the last thing that you're going to see if your baby's not breathing properly. And if you call emergency services when your baby has turned blue, you're at the end of the emergency. So we're really limited to what we can do. We want to give you the skills to identify that your baby's not breathing properly way earlier on, so when you do call emergency services, there is time to help your baby. When we're talking about your baby not breathing properly, it can be for a multitude of reasons, whether they have a virus, whether they have asthma, whether they have bronchitis, whether they have breathing issues. The thing that you need to understand is you might not know why your baby's not breathing properly, but you want to understand what it looks like so you can seek help straight away. The first sign that I teach my parents is in between your collarbone there's a piece of skin here, and every time your infant breathes in, you'll find that that piece of skin is going to get sucked in. If you see that happening to your baby, and this happens to babies who look well, but because we don't know it's something we need to look out for, we tend not to notice. So if you see that that piece of skin is being sucked in every time that your child breathes, this is your time to investigate further. And this is your time that your alarms are alerted slightly. So what I want you to do if you notice this, it's time to investigate what's going on. Could it be an upper airway blockage? And what I mean by that, and interestingly enough, not many parents know this, it might just be that they have a blocked nose. And because they have a blocked nose, they're not getting enough air in. So if you see this, your first step is to see if your baby has a blocked nose. The thing is about babies is they don't know how to mouth breathe, which is really interesting. Us as adults, if we have a blocked nose, we'll know to breathe through our mouth. But babies don't. They'll continue breathing through their nose and they'll be really struggling to get any air in. If you do find that this is getting sucked in and your baby has a blocked nose, there is some stuff that you can get from the chemist that will clear their nasal passageway. If you've cleared that and they don't have a blocked nose and they still have that piece of skin getting sucked in, I want you to invest their chest area. And that means no matter how tired you are or how cold it is, you want to make sure that you unbutton their clothing or take their top off and have a look at their chest cavity. If they are having difficulty breathing, what you'll find is every time they breathe in and out, skin will get sucked in between the ribs and out again. And you'll also find that the abdomen is going in and out. If you see this with your infant, it is an emergency. You must call emergency services straight away. And the thing is, this can be happening for hours. And when I say to you, what do you see as a sign as your child not breathing properly, and you say blue, these are things that are happening hours before them actually turning blue. So it's important to be able to recognize these signs and call for help when that happens. If you do ever find yourself in the circumstance of walking in and your baby has turned blue and they're not breathing, I want to be able to demonstrate to you what CPR is. Now, if you've done first aid before or you've seen other first aid videos, sometimes it can be made out to be a really complicated process, but it's not. All we're doing is, here is my heart. If I'm not breathing and my heart's not pumping, I need someone to pump it for me. And we're going to manually do that with your hands. And every time you push down, you're going to be pumping the heart and moving oxygenated or whatever oxygen is left in that blood around the body until help arrives. It is really vital to do these compressions and to do them straight away. And when you call emergency services, they'll talk you through the process. The main thing to learn from CPR is learning how to do compressions. Now, what we want to make sure, because of our baby's head, we want to make sure it's always neutral. We don't want the head coming forward or too far back, because that's ultimately going to restrict the airway while you're doing CPR. So you want to place one hand on their forehead and make sure that their airway is neutral. The second thing that you want to do is you can measure from the middle of the underarms in the middle. It is basically applying pressure to the center of the chest. How far do you go? Well, the biggest problem that we have at the moment is people aren't going far enough. If this is your heart and you're applying compressions to the heart and you're doing it too soft, this is what's going to happen. You need to make sure with every compression that you go all the way to be able to push the blood around the body. So they say about the third of the chest, but you're not likely going to be able to measure your baby when you're doing CPR. Just be mindful that you're not going to hurt your baby by doing compressions too hard. One of the most common things that I hear is that you can break their ribs or things can go wrong. Well, the reality is at the moment, if you don't pump this heart for them, even if you do break their ribs, they're not going to be alive. So it is very unlikely that you can break ribs from babies. Their bones are nice and flexible. So I don't want that to be a concern. Your concern right now should be that your baby is not breathing and you need to commence CPR. So once again, holding the head, doing compressions into center of the chest, it's not an exact science. Just make sure that you apply a pressure to the center of the chest and continue to do so until help arrives. You do have the alternative option of doing compressions and breaths. Learning breaths with your CPR can make things a little bit more difficult. So the Australian Resuscitation Guidelines do say that if you're not confident to do breaths, you can do compression only. However, I will do a demonstration for you now. If you are going to do compression and breaths, it's 30 compressions to do 2 breaths, 30 compressions to 2 breaths. So once you commence the compressions, how to do the breaths is that you're going to seal your lips around their nose and their mouth. Now, how much air do you need to put in? Well, you don't need to put too much. I want you to think of you breathing right now. Every time you take a breath in, are you filling your lungs up completely? Probably not. You just want to blow enough so their chest rises a little bit and falls, and you will visually see it when you do it. The other thing that I want to reassure you is that when you're doing your breaths, you'll start feeling restriction if you're putting too much air in. So it's 30 compressions to 2 breaths. But again, when you call emergency services, they will talk you through it. And if you're not confident doing breaths, you can do compression only quite successfully. I hope this video has given you some more confidence to understand what CPR is and how to recognise if your baby's not breathing properly. A video isn't enough and things do change all the time. So if you are wanting to learn in a fun and easy and relaxed environment with your child present, you can organise one of my Parentmedic licensed educators to come to your home or come to one of our child-friendly public sessions. I'm Natalie from the Parentmedic movement, and if you'd like to learn more information, please go to www.parentmedic.co.